Title: The Whispers in the Fog. In the small town of Elden Hollow, fog rolled in off the marshlands like a thick blanket, swallowing the last shreds of daylight as dusk settled around the crooked houses. This was the time of year the townsfolk rarely ventured beyond their doorsteps, the time when the chilling tales of the Umbra, the otherworldly entities said to wander the fog, resurfaced in hushed whispers. 17-year-old Clara Bennett had always been fascinated by the stories, despite the shivers they sent down her spine. Growing up listening to her grandmother's tales of the Umbra, she often wondered if the creatures were just figments of imagination or something more sinister. She never really thought she would face them, nor did she predict that Halloween night would turn into a chilling reality unlike any story she'd ever heard. The evening was crisp with an unnerving stillness that settled in the air. Clara's friends, Jenna and Riley, convinced her to accompany them to the haunted marsh for a night of exploration in ghost stories. "What's the worst that could happen? We'll just see if any of those urban legends hold water," Jenna laughed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. With a lantern swinging from her grasp, Clara found herself donning bravery that felt more like foolishness. As they stepped deeper into the marsh, the fog thickened, swirling around their ankles. The world outside faded into a muted void, the sounds of the nearby town swallowed by the oppressive silence. "Look," Riley exclaimed, pointing ahead. Just beyond their path, silhouettes flickered through the mist, twisting into forms that seemed at once grotesque and alluring. Clara's heart raced. "It's just the shadows playing tricks," she reassured herself, though fear gnawed at her. The trio pressed forward, emboldened by the thrill of the unknown, but Clara felt a shift. It was as if the air had thickened with unseen eyes watching from the depths of the fog. The shadows elongated, stretching towards them, beckoning with whispers that danced along the edges of clarity. "Clara, Clara," they called, a symphony of distant voices laced with echoes of laughter and sorrow. "Did you hear that?" Jenna's voice startled Clara. The sound of her friend's panic cut through the haze, sending a chill cascading down her spine. "We should go back." Riley raised his lantern higher. "Just a bit further. We're almost to the old dock." Ignoring her instincts, Clara reluctantly followed. The dock was a wooden relic from a time that was long forgotten, weathered and submerged in the marsh, a perfect setting for ghost stories. Gathering in the flickering light, they shared tales of the Umbra, the entities believed to lure people into the fog, stealing them away to an effervescent world hidden just out of reach. But as the last breezy words left Riley's mouth, an overwhelming sense of dread settled over them. The fog shifted. Shadows coalesced into opaque figures draped in darkness. Clara felt her breath hitch in her throat. The silhouettes began to emerge from the mist, drifting closer, with eyes like burning coals. Their shapes twisted and turned, merging with the fog as they moved with a purpose. "Run!" Clara shouted, her voice cracking as she fumbled backwards, bumping into Jenna, who had frozen in place, entranced by the spectacle. Riley yanked her forward. "We have to get out of here." The figures began to whisper again, this time clearer, more insistent. "Stay with us, Clara. You don't belong in their world." Their breath was cold and tasted of despair. Clara's heart raced, fueled by a primal urge to escape, but there was a magnetic pull, like a dark promise binding her to them. Riley grabbed Clara's wrist, dragging her with him toward the outskirts of the marsh. Behind them, Jenna stumbled over her own feet, caught between the otherworldly call and the terror that surged through Clara. The fog twisted, drawing shadows closer, reaching for Jenna as she gazed entranced. "No, Jenna!" Clara screamed, struggling against Riley's grip. The Umbra wailed, their voices crescendoing, filling the air with an eerie beauty that was utterly horrifying. In one last desperate pull, Clara broke free, launching herself through the thick fog towards her friend. "Jenna, come on, snap out of it." But the darkness enveloped them, and the cold fingers of the Umbra brushed against Clara's skin, sending waves of dread through her. "Leave her," Riley shouted, grabbing Clara's arm again as they tried to reach Jenna. Clara turned just in time to see her friend being siphoned into the fog, eyes wide but unseeing, lost to the depths of the supernatural. Gasping, Clara was torn between duty and deep sadness. She pulled away from Riley and made a fatal decision. She lunged toward Jenna, calling her name as long fingers of shadow snaked around her. The whispers escalated, the fog thickening, entwining them in a dance of despair. "Stay with us. You're lost. Just join us," they coaxed, their voices lulling and tragic. Clara's heart raced, battling against the shadows, but their hold was strong. With a surge of loyalty, Clara grabbed Jenna's hand, feeling the warmth of her friend's skin against the consuming cold around them. "No, we're leaving," Clara cried, dragging Jenna along. The fog twisted and writhed, anger pulsing through it. With a final deafening scream of frustration, a surge of energy flung Clara and Jenna backward, sending them careening towards the edge of the marsh. The fog receded, and Clara found herself on the ground, gasping for breath. Jenna lay beside her, wide-eyed and shaken, freed from the influence of the Umbra. "Clara, what just happened?" she stammered, fear knotting her voice. Clara breathed heavily, shaking. We have to get home. Now." As they and Riley stumbled back toward Elden Hollow, the fog lingered behind them, swirling into dark forms. Now they understood, it wasn't just a story. The Umbra were real, and they remained, waiting for the next unwitting souls to entice into their dark embrace. From that night on, the fog no longer brought them stories, but a warning. They never spoke of it again, yet, whenever they passed the marsh, Clara always felt the chill in the air as if the Umbra beckoned from afar, reminding her of that Halloween night and the price of curiosity.